Back in the chairs again on this Thursday morning. Thanks for being a part of the ride as you are on your ride for the most part. Paul Ihander with you. Max Goren is back as well as we kick things off. Normally this time of year, we slide into a little bit of a kind of predictable routine. What I mean is when there are championship, like June is a championship month. There is no doubt about it. U.S. Open, Wyndham Clark, College World Series, Oklahoma, NBA Finals, New York Knicks, Stanley Cup champion, Carolina Hurricanes. A lot of deciding things happen this time of year, and it's very routine. We all expect what we are going to expect. And then in the couple of weeks that follow all those championships ending, we enter what is known as essentially the roster shuffle. It was much bigger back in the day for the NBA. The NBA would have its draft, but there was all this talk about free agency on July the 1st, and it was agents calling players at midnight or coaches calling players at the stroke of, 12:01 or whatever it was when it was legally allowed. Now, we know that not everybody played by the same rules, and there clearly was some tampering and things that would happen. But the NBA truly dominated that moment. And then the NHL got involved. The NHL said, you know what? We don't have to be as quiet as well. And part of that has to do with money. As the salary cap rises, and a lot of teams find themselves like, all right, we need to spend a minimum amount of money, or we're looking to overhaul rosters, and we know that no movement clauses don't mean anything anymore. The NHL has taken upon itself here this past year to really get involved in terms of player movement. Well, the NBA is trying to say, wait a second, hold my beer. In the last 48 hours, we have seen plenty of player movement, most notably Giannis Antetokounmpo, moving from the Milwaukee Bucks to the Miami Heat. And last night was night 2 of the NBA draft. See where I'm going? Lots of player movement. The NHL draft is coming up this weekend, probably with names that you aren't too familiar with because we are talking about a lot of much younger players and a lot more European players and Canadian players that you're just not familiar with. And there's no shame in that game. You're going to see a lot of hyphenated names, a lot of umlauts and tildes over the next couple of days when it comes to the NHL draft. The NBA draft wrapped up its noise last night, and we will talk a bit about the NBA draft. But overall, the NBA is trying to take it all back. And now, as you wake up this morning, at the end of last night's NBA draft, if you did not stay up for it, and I did, and I'm paying the price because I did not realize that the kid from Senegal was going to be drafted, or we were going to see some Australian players get drafted.
Well, we had to stay up later than we thought to see Henry Vassar go off the board at 52.
Which was a travesty.
Thought he was going to be a late first-rounder. Now, apparently, him and his agent said he would not sign a two-way contract, so that contributed to him sliding down the draft board a bit. But that was very surprising to me. Probably the most surprising part of the second round.
No money being made there. So you did stay up. That was 52-53. My father asked me, he goes, hey, what's going on with the draft? And I said, it's late, and I'm not recognizing a lot of these guys anymore. I'm not seeing them. NHL draft. Besides that, buried at the end of the NBA draft last night, just before 11 o'clock, ESPN Shams Charania comes out with news that the Charlotte Hornets are apparently making phone calls to trade LaMelo Ball. And here's what Charania said last night about Ball being involved in trade talks.
And another star whose name is picking up steam in the NBA trade market here during draft week as we get closer to free agency is Charlotte's LaMelo Ball. Multiple teams are strongly pursuing LaMelo Ball right now. The Hornets are engaged, I'm told, and Ball had a strong finish to the season. It mirrored the Hornets' rise over the course of the last calendar year. Both sides have been in a good place. Ball does want to be in Charlotte, I'm told, but this is an organization fielding some aggressive offers. So if the price is met, he could very well be on the move. This is a developing story, potentially over the next 24, 48 hours.
So we'll start the clock, right? That clock started just before midnight last night. Stories started getting filed about LaMelo Ball. And you know when ESPN breaks out the serious trap music, that there's a little bit of steam behind whatever's being reported. He just doesn't throw that out there just as an add-on at the end of a program. Like, this thing was over. The assistant commissioner is high-fiving randos in the crowd on this soundstage where they had a bunch of banquet tables and cheap chicken. So there's got to be something behind it. Now, Mark Stein, formerly of ESPN, now a Substack writer, but still plugged into the NBA, suggests that there are two teams that have a lot more fire behind this and have made probably at least what they would consider a reasonable offer. Now, we don't know what those are, but the Minnesota Timberwolves, Western Conference foe, Minnesota, always looking for help and getting over that hump, right? They feel like they need to go over that hump at some point. Mike Conley is not a spry guy. They need a distributor. They could use some more scoring. There's no doubt about it. And the Toronto Raptors, Eastern Conference, another team with trade interest. Now, Max and I are going to run through this in real time just a little bit. As the Hornets, some are calling it a gamble. A gamble because Ball is on a max. He's on a max deal. So he's getting paid as much as he possibly can get. Incredibly quiet trading deadline. With Toronto, and just looking at Toronto right away, they could use some offensive punch. And LaMelo Ball would provide them, certainly, that offensive punch. I wouldn't even worry about chemistry. I'm like, R.J. Barrett, I believe, was your number one option in Toronto. That was kind of it. Scotty Barnes, too. But they could use a playmaking guard. They could use some help. And they've been incredibly quiet in the offseason. And again, it's Toronto. They have a world championship. That's not strange to them. And all he has to do, and the one thing that Max and I talked about over the course of this season, a healthy LaMelo Ball is a productive LaMelo Ball, no matter what, because he's feeling himself, and he knows if he's not getting hurt and he's, managing minutes, he can be a very effective option, number one in many cases when it comes to offense.
Yeah, I mean, he is basically the entire engine of the Charlotte Hornets offense, and you can see the difference between when he's on the floor and when he's off in terms of how it flows, how they're able to score. Just the confidence and the movement. It all looks better with him out there on the floor. And he's a volume scorer, but he's also a really great playmaker. That's probably the hallmark. The two hallmarks of his game are the crazy kind of unorthodox shots that he takes, and then the great passes and crazy lobs and stuff that you'll see him bust out. I don't know. This is a really interesting development for me because obviously the Hornets just had their best finish in many years. They haven't been back to the playoffs since 2016. They got back to the play-in and actually won a game in the play-in last season. Of course, they didn't make the playoffs because the second play-in against the Magic, the
absolute collapse. The
playoff physicality was just more than they could handle, and they got beaten pretty soundly in that game. Why this is really interesting, too, is it's the rumored interest. Those two teams are the Timberwolves and the Raptors, or at least those are two of the teams that are reportedly aggressively pursuing LaMelo Ball. But then the report also comes that Minnesota doesn't want to trade Jaden McDaniels. They don't want to trade Rudy Gobert. They don't want to trade Naz Reid. So what are they really actually willing to give up? How aggressive can they actually be pursuing him if they're not offering any of those players? And they also don't have any tradable draft picks, really, over the next handful of years. So I don't see that happening. I don't see how that could possibly happen unless the Hornets GM, Jeff Peterson, unless he wants to put himself in a Nico Harrison type situation where he's on the way out, because whatever offer that Minnesota could put together with whatever is left in Minnesota, it's just not worth LaMelo Ball and what he provides to the Charlotte Hornets. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a package out there that exists that would make sense, because I'm sure there is, and I have faith, ultimately, that this is more due diligence than anything. But, again, if it's coming from Minnesota or even from Toronto, which Toronto has some good players, but none they would move on from. They're not going to trade Scotty Barnes for LaMelo Ball.
That's not happening.
Then it just doesn't make very much sense.
You want Grady Dick?
I mean, a decent player, but again, we're talking about the centerpiece of your offense, and makes it flow and probably a big piece of the locker room chemistry as well, as he's been here for 6 years now, and there are good relationships in that locker room. So I don't know. I just don't know about all this. Maybe there's another team that's not being reported that has a good offer on the table, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's very puzzling to me, and I think a lot of people that follow the Charlotte Hornets feel the same way.
So they're shopping. If there could be something done, perhaps it is a different team of one of these two. You look at assets that Toronto has, and it's not like they can give up bigs. You know, there's not where the Hornets could use some help. They don't have that kind of stockpile, and with the Timberwolves looking to, I mean, they're unloading Julius Randle to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, that's not done. They could include the Hornets in that deal in terms of making it a three-way dance. That could be a possibility, because it's not like Brooklyn's contending anytime soon. Brooklyn's picks would be better if you're just shopping for picks. Chris Canty of ESPN suggests with all the smoke and fire that the Hornets are looking for a new face of the team, and they may have found it last year's draft.
He's eligible for a 2-year extension to the tune of $119 million on July 6th. So the question then becomes, do the Hornets want to continue to commit to him, those types of resources, or do they want to make Con Knippel the face of their franchise, Brandon Miller, and build around those two? So that becomes the conversation, because when you lock into a LaMelo Ball extension, then all of a sudden you're talking about that being the core of your team. And I'm not necessarily sure that that's where head coach Charles Lee wants to go. That franchise is well run. That's the first time we could say that for the Charlotte Hornets in a long time. And so I think they're doing their due diligence and exploring just what they could bring in return from a LaMelo Ball trade that can help propel them forward in the direction that they want to go in terms of building around their two most recent top-of-the-lottery picks.
What are you grabbing, though, as the Charlotte Hornets to disrupt whatever flow you felt you had last year within that locker room? There was, maybe you have too many scores, which is kind of a weird thing to say. I know you've been looking to offload Miles Bridges for a while, Max, to figure out what they can get, because we know they need to get bigger in the post. If you remove a guy like that, I'm looking for equivalency, right? I'm looking for something that, if there aren't enough basketballs to be thrown around, and I want Brandon Miller to take more shots, and I want Knippel to take more shots, and I want to see more out of whoever they manage to roll out there, and you remove Ball from the equation, you need something equivalent. Like, I'm not looking to, if I'm the Hornets, I wouldn't be looking to step back at all in terms of quality of point guard. Maybe a little bit more of a distributor, but I still need a guy that's going to double-double for me and create opportunities for others.
Yeah, and how many better distributor point guards are really out there than LaMelo Ball? He averaged 7 assists last season, and you know that's again a big part of his game is kind of the unique playmaking and passing ability and lob threat. I just don't know, and these teams that are willing to trade for him, with again, the wording was very interesting with aggressively pursuing these trades or making aggressive offers. Like, what quality of players are these other teams even willing to give up? Like, because at that point, how much of an upgrade are you getting if you're giving up one of your quality starters or young rotational pieces in order to get LaMelo Ball? How much more are you improving as a team to do that if you give that up, plus a bunch of draft assets probably? It's baffling. I'm still, like, I'm trying to find the words to make it make sense, and the only thing that makes sense to me is it's Jeff Peterson doing his Eric Tulsky due diligence thing and really getting a read on the market and just trying to understand exactly what's out there, because I just don't see it. I don't see how it would make sense to make this move as your franchise is on the rise with the guy who is the engine that makes the offense go. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
You've got
I don't
younger.
see it.
There are some younger point guards available, like for example Portland, which was heavily involved in a shopping sweepstakes. Now, if I'm the Hornets, I'm not trading to anybody in the Eastern Conference. I think I'm wiping that as an option off the board.
But then the only reported team with interest is Minnesota, and we just mentioned that they are putting all of the players that the Hornets would want off limits. Like, if Jaden McDaniels or Naz Reid was potentially coming back the other way in a trade, then okay, like, I can kind of start to see. Obviously, they'd probably throw in a couple picks or some other bench pieces in there, and I can kind of see how that would make sense. But you know, who else out there, at least in the West, is willing to make that move and has the pieces and is going to make that quote unquote aggressive offer?
Well, remember, I think we put a little bit too much stock into insiders sometimes because they can't call all 30 teams. They're not going to hit one text. Like, I have a group text for people within my little. I had a group text for teams that I have coached before. I'm like, he's not going to hit send and, hey, are you interested in LaMelo Ball? And everyone's going to get back to him. Those are the only two that everyone's kind of confirming right now. But if I look to the West, and just hypothetically speaking, I talk about the Portland Trailblazers, who have Damian Lillard, who have Drew Holiday, but they've got younger point guards that they're not quite crazy about anymore. Scoot Henderson, for example. I'm not saying this is a Scoot Henderson, LaMelo Ball kind of thing, but there are assets that could be brought over from teams like that. Jamal Murray, is he the drink? Is he the stirrer in Denver that they all want him to be? It feels like that's Jokic's team, and whatever happens there runs through him. So if he's looking for a new playing partner, there could be a possibility there. Murray, I wouldn't turn down Murray. Nobody would turn that down. I'm like, there's equivalency there. Like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for equivalency and need more than anything else. I could go through every NBA team and go, yep, that guy, but not that guy, not that guy, not that guy. But until you push up against that wall harder, those guys that they say, well, they're untouchable, trust me, they never are. The price can always be raised. The price can always be changed when it comes to picks and players. And everybody's got a lot of assets. They truly do.
Except for Minnesota, really.
Except for Minnesota.
Well, at least in terms of draft capital. Look, when they talk about this with Minnesota, I've noticed they haven't said Anthony Edwards is off the table. I'm just saying.
It could be Anthony Edwards. Where would he play, though? You'd have to give up Bridges, too, wouldn't you?
Oh, no.
So we'll see what happens. The Hornets apparently kicking the tires on a LaMelo Ball deal. And does he really want to go, to be honest?
I'm Max Goren with 3 things you need to know right now from 99.9 The Fan. Multiple Triangle college basketball players were selected in last night's second round of the NBA draft, including Duke's Isaiah Evans at pick number 33 to Minnesota, Malik Brown at pick number 44 to Brooklyn, and UNC's Henry Vasar at pick 52 to Atlanta. NC State's Quadir Copeland signed with Houston as an undrafted free agent. The biggest news out of the NBA last night came after the draft was complete, with ESPN Shams Charania reporting that the Charlotte Hornets are seriously engaged in trade talks surrounding LaMelo Ball. Multiple teams are reportedly aggressively pursuing Ball, who averaged 20.1 points, 7.1 assists, and 4.8 rebounds last season. The group stage of the World Cup is heating up with 6 games today as groups D, E, and F all wrap up group play. The U.S. men's national team, which has already clinched a first-place finish in Group D, will face off with Turkey tonight at 10 o'clock in Los Angeles. For all the latest news on your favorite teams, download the 99.9 The Fan app or visit 999thefan.com.
NHL draft is tomorrow night. Canes have a late first-round pick if they decide to actually use it on somebody with umlauts, tildes, and dashes. Just kidding, but it might be true. Felix Unger-Sorum had a dash and umlauts. So, hey, well done. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? So, what they say. The trade winds have been blowing, certainly throughout the NHL, right? Trying to take over some of the late June post Stanley Cup champion euphoria. And Jack Drury's on the move. Jack Drury, you might remember him, playing the Carolina Hurricanes uniform. He's coming a little bit. He's coming east, not quite east.
He got traded for Fedor Svechkov.
The other Svechkov. Jack Drury will be in Nashville now. Got to reunite with Brady Shea. There'll be some familiarity there. The Colorado Avalanche have a cap problem. I believe they have about $5 million left to sign 5 players, which includes 2 defensemen. So they're going to be scraping.
By the way, I'm pretty sure Cale Makar is a free agent next season.
Yeah, they got to pay him too.
And that contract is going to be hefty. Like, what do you even think that AAV is going to be? He's already making, I think, upwards of 9 on his current deal.
Oof.
And that was before he was basically consensus best defenseman in the world. What's he going to make, like $14, $15 million a year in this next
10.
contract?
He'll be top 10 NHL next contract. There's no doubt about it.
Highest paid defenseman for sure.
Yeah. If Alex Tuck can get $10 million from the Washington Capitals on an 8-year extension, then look out.
Washington, they've gotten aggressive over the last couple days. That move to get Alex Tuck, the move to get Jordan Kyrou, who I'm not super sold on as a player, but the talent is very obvious for him. And maybe a change of scenery can help maybe the effort along, because I think that's been the biggest thing. Oh my goodness, I've got breaking news, Paul.
Oh, well, hit the breaking news sounder. Hit the breaking news sounder, please. Just find it. There it is.
We just finished the segment. The Charlotte Hornets are trading LaMelo Ball and
Stop!
Josh Green to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Naz Reid, a 2033 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps in 2028, 29, and 2030, and 3 second-round picks.
All right, repeat that. Slow down again, because I was laughing over that entire. I mean, I'm oh my goodness. Repeat that again. This is happening.
Yes, this is from Shams Charania 22 seconds ago. The Charlotte Hornets are trading star guard LaMelo Ball and Josh Green to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Naz Reid, a 2033 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps in 2028, 2029, and 2030, and 3 second-round picks. Sources tell ESPN.
So, Max, no to Minnesota? No to Minnesota?
They said Naz Reid wasn't on the table, and I do want to preface this by saying I love Naz Reid. I have always been big on him, but I don't know if this is going to be enough. And these future first-round picks, 2033 unprotected and 3 pick swaps, I don't know. This must mean they had serious concerns about LaMelo's health, about his ability to be the first option on a playoff winning team. And Naz Reid, by the way, excellent fit in that 4 spot where they've been looking to upgrade for a long time. But first reaction is I just kind of am stunned. I can't believe that this happened so quickly, just kind of out of nowhere.
6th man of the year back in 2024. He'd been a Timberwolf for life, pretty much. Bootstraps kind of guy. Averaged 13, was healthy. He's had healthy NBA seasons for the most part. Doubled 13.6 points per game last year as we dig into statistics. His best rebounding year as a Timberwolf, averaging just over 6 rebounds, and plays fairly efficient defense. Can also shoot the 3 as well on his size. And apparently there's a cat named after him. So there's that. Like, he was a fan favorite. Like, they loved him in Minnesota. I don't know. Like, our brethren in Minneapolis who do sports radio and analysis and whatnot, they're going to have a field day with this one just like we are too, because they loved him in Minnesota. Like, the fans loved him. And LaMelo Ball, his flashiness that came with the Charlotte Hornets, came with a lot of love and a lot of just like, oh, dude, stay healthy, stay in control. Wow.
That's crazy.
That's bonkers.
The way this developed over what? I think that first Shams report came out last night at like 11 o'clock, 11:30 maybe. So like 10 hours later, LaMelo Ball being shipped to Minnesota. I think what this really signals to me is that Charlotte is going to make another move, because I don't know if they have, unless they really think Kobe White can be the starting point guard and playmaker.
There you go.
And they still need to sign him, or in theory, I guess he could go somewhere else because he's a free agent.
They just drafted Christian Anderson.
I don't think he could be a
that's
starter.
the backup. That's the backup point guard.
Yeah, he's definitely a backup.
That's your 16-minute guy night thing.
That is just, this whole situation is crazy how this all just unfolded. And by the way, appreciate you guys finishing that move right after we finished the first segment on LaMelo Ball. But I feel like there's got to be more coming with all these picks that they've just acquired and pick swaps. They may try to package some of them to try to get another starting quality guard. Either that or they really do believe that Kobe White can be the starting point guard. But wow. That's really what I have to say here is the big takeaway is that is just shocking stuff. And I don't know necessarily how I feel about it for the Hornets, because again, I think they're going to make some more moves to try to kind of shore up the starters and the rotation, but that is just crazy out of left field.
Well, you're swapping a guy who averaged, 20 points a game for a guy who averaged about 13 but gives you more of a post presence clearly with Reid. The picks are inconsequential. That's pocket change, right? It's really about players and how much where you truly needed help. And for the Hornets, a move like this suggests that where they were currently could only get them to that play-in round. A step like this and a trade like this, because you're dealing a guy that was giving you 20 points a night, suggests that you needed a different kind of help, and you will allow those other guys, the Brandon Millers, the Con Kneppels, and Kobe White, if they're putting money in front of him and they felt that snapshot and dude was instant offense off the bench, so nobody's questioning Kobe White and clutch, suggests that this is the next step for them to take that next evolution. They feel that they can be a contender in the Eastern Conference where things are right now. And you know the speed of how this went down, Max, and I am flabbergasted. The same thing. The fact that the Jaylen Brown deal couldn't get done, and someone couldn't, and
who knows if he's even going to get moved. Jaylen Brown.
They were offered two firsts.
Maybe that's connected to this. Maybe now they take some of these assets and picks that they've acquired, and they flip them over to Boston.
All right, one more time for everyone who's joining us, Max. The deal being reported by ESPN for LaMelo Ball.
Yes. Charlotte Hornets sending LaMelo Ball and Josh Green to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Naz Reid, 2033 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps in 2028, 29, and 2030, and 3 second-round picks. Those are 2029, 2032, and 2033.
Duh. And David Putney. Because I felt like it. Wow. All right. That little monkey in the wrench there. But
we didn't even get to really talk about Alexander Nikishin.
We will.
That's already gone on longer than this LaMelo Ball, this 10-hour LaMelo Ball trade saga even went, and now it's over.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if Eric Bleeping Tulski has a plan too.